They came over the announcement system. Gas was apparently leaking from the 4th and 5th floor.
Humana workers were stopped at the doors this morning.
I was getting dropped off at work and I tried to go in, the door was closed. So I'm like, okay, well, let me go check another door. I go check that door is closed. And then this guy tells me we have a gas leak and everybody has to evacuate the building.
A private contractor was working on a boiler and intentionally released natural gas to ventilate the gas lines, which according to Louisville Metro Fire and Rescue is normal. But that gas got sucked into the AC system.
Sucked that air back in, that gas back into the building, prompting the scare. Of course, all floors were kind of smelling it at the same time, which, it was chaotic in the beginning.
Around 4,000 people poured into the street.
They had us all evacuated.
For 2 hours, workers stayed outside while the air was cut off inside.
And we'll make sure that our work schedules are adjusted not only to reflect for safety, but to make sure that our members do not receive any disruption in call center service.
When they were let back in, workers began feeling sick, and another evacuation started.
I'm shocked because nothing like this has ever happened before. I mean,
for the third year in a row, I'm presenting you all with a balanced budget that creates no new taxes or no tax increases. This is a $716 million budget with $528 million from the general fund.
Perhaps what's most significant about the mayor's $716 million budget is what's not in it. No new taxes.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That would be extra great.
About 60% of the budget is related to public safety, funding new recruit classes for police, fire, and corrections, and continuing the new paramedic training academy. $2 million to buy 15 new ambulances, plus 3 new tornado sirens. The biggest change in this budget is the first significant spending on road and sidewalk improvements in years.
They're old and they're worn out, and it's going to happen with time, so hopefully that'll work.
Since city-county merger 10 years ago, Louisville Metro has averaged $2.5 million each year on road construction. But for this next fiscal year, beginning July 1st, the mayor, with help from Metro Council Capital Infrastructure Funds, is proposing $6.4 million in new spending on roads. And that includes 28 new miles of bike lanes connecting U of L to Old Louisville and downtown. After nearly 2 years of trying to beat the charges against him, Josh Schapker entered a surprise guilty plea today.
Whose idea was it for you to plead guilty today?
Mine.
Are you pleading guilty voluntarily?
Yes.
Schapker pleaded guilty to murdering Trey Zwicker, his 14-year-old stepson, found dead behind Liberty High School 2 years ago tomorrow. He said he beat Trey to death with a pipe because Trey stole his lighter.
Or some shit, man, and I just snapped. And I hit him, he went down. I stepped on his hand, pulled the bar. He still had the bar in his hand. I hit him. Before I knew it, it was over.
Terry Zwicker is Trey's father.
I got one of the people that we need to put in prison for the rest of their life, and we've got one more.
Zwicker is talking about Josh Young, Josh Schapker's son, who's also charged with Trey's murder.
Nah, Josh Young is just as guilty as his dad. He was standing right there.
Initially, Schapker said Young killed Trey.
I said, Josh, if they catch us, you just play crazy. You know, you're a minor. He didn't have nothing to do with it.
Even though Young still awaits trial, Schapker's plea made today a good day for Zwicker on the eve of the second anniversary of Trey's death.
I don't anticipate ever really knowing the truth. Just anticipate seeing justice being served. It's a slow process, but at the end of the road, I think I'm going to be happy with what I see.
He was caught on camera at the Easy Pawn in Bardstown trying to sell 2 children's bikes over the weekend. But tonight, 23-year-old Dylan Mingus is behind bars thanks to a quick-thinking worker. One of the alleged victims is 8-year-old Lainey D'Angelo. She loves to ride.
I start from there and I go all the way down there.
She's a cancer survivor in remission after being diagnosed with Burkitt's lymphoma in 2011. She got her bike at a party celebrating her last session of chemo.
If it's pretty out, she likes riding her bike.
Police say Mingus stole it off the family's front porch sometime Friday night and later tried to cash in, but Easy Pawn worker Mike Puckett told him they weren't accepting bikes.
He left out of the business here, set the bikes down next to the building, and took off walking up the street. And my instinct just told me they didn't belong to him.
Puckett held on to the bike, hoping someone would claim it. On Sunday, Lainey's grandmother walked in.
I just determined I was going to try to find it.
She showed me a picture, and I told her I had the bike in the back of my truck.
Lainey got her bike back, but police still couldn't find Mingus. That is until Puckett noticed something else today.
I was sitting up there in the chair and looked out the window and seen the guy walking up the street there. He was wearing the same exact clothes he was wearing that day when he came in here.
He called police, who arrested Mingus on 2 other theft warrants. He went to jail. Lainey spent the afternoon riding her bike.
She's my hero.
The Maker's Mark Distillery sits in the middle of rolling Kentucky hills, far off the beaten path in the small town of Loretto, Kentucky. Its history is also off the beaten path.
My grandfather, as a craftsman, had a vision to do things very differently.
Different it was, and different it remains today. It started with Rob Samuel's grandfather, Bill Samuel Sr., who bought the historic distillery in the 1950s and vowed to make something unique.
All the Maker's Mark that you've seen all over the world, it all comes from right in here. And we'll go in and I'll kind of show you the process from the grains to the distilling.
The process is painstaking. First, the grains are selected just from the best of the best, all local corn and red winter wheat instead of rye that's used in other bourbons. It's carefully crushed and then cooked, and then it's on to 3 days of fermenting, the all-natural process that converts sugar into alcohol.
This is kind of the old-time way of making whiskey. These are some of these fermenters, the staves are over 100 years old.
The alcohol is pushed out as steam and then converted to this liquid. And then comes the real waiting process. It goes inside a unique barrel made of Kentucky oak where it ages for 5 to 7 years.
It sits at the top of the warehouse for 3 good Kentucky summers, 3 hot summers. Then we taste it, see if it's ready to be rotated toward the bottom. It sits toward the bottom for about 3 more years. Then we taste it, see if it's ready to be bottled. All Maker's Mark, it's all bottled by taste, not age.
Meanwhile, thousands of bottles are filling up every day of the bourbon that's already been aged to perfection. It's a bottle designed by Marjorie Samuels, Bill Samuel Sr.'s wife, who also designed that famous label that's still printed on the very same printing press.
The bottles, once they're filled, go through this process for labeling, go down the line where they're capped, and then, of course, get that signature red wax dip.
And it was my grandmother who suggested that each and every bottle be finished by dipping by hand in red sealing wax. And that way she suggested that since each bottle was sealed by hand, that each would be a little different and distinct from the next, which is the mark of a handmade piece.
The Maker's Mark, if you will. The name came from Old English craftsmen who always left the mark of the maker. Each bottle of Maker's Mark has its mark, too. An S for the Samuels family name, a star for the Star Hill Farm. That's the first farm settled by the family in the 1700s. It's here and only here that real Maker's Mark can be made. It uses soft, iron-free spring water found only in Kentucky. Corn is Kentucky's native grain, and that's what bourbon has in it more than anything else. And even the oak to make the barrels comes from Kentucky trees. Those barrels age best in Kentucky's climate, hot, humid summers and intensely cold winters. Rob Samuels will tell you it isn't the most efficient process in the bourbon industry, but it's exactly what bourbon drinkers love about Maker's Mark.
We've been able to manage growth in a way never to waver from our founder's vision. So everything's produced exactly as it was in the very beginning. what makes us unique and what our consumers cherish about Maker's Mark.
An old-fashioned formula as Makers makes its mark on the future. For Made in Kentuckiana, Kelsey Starks, WHAS 11 News. The company began in 1879 as a wagon manufacturer and has changed with the times. In 1936, Kentucky Wagon became Kentucky Trailer, and trailers have come a long way since then. Fast forward to 2011, these trailers aren't hauling buggies anymore. They're souped up, tricked out mobile units, custom made for everyone from the FBI to celebrities like Will Smith and Patrick Dempsey.
But that's the type of unique product that Kentucky does. The roof of the trailer really moves up to have a second floor. You've seen the Will Smith trailer. He had a recording studio in there and a living quarters, and that's what we do. Tell us your need, we develop a solution.
They put the custom in customer because each one of these massive pieces of machinery is custom built, mostly by hand.
So while there's a great deal of automation to the process, these are hand-built trailers.
While competitors are rolling off trailers in a matter of days, it takes a custom order at Kentucky Trailer anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 months to make it through this specific process.
It's a difficult process. It's not quick. It requires customization. It requires extra engineering. It's tedious. It takes exacting practices. We want to do that. We do this by choice.
It's the niche market they found that keeps them growing. 2 years ago, they moved from their location on South 3rd Street to this massive operation in the industrial part of southwest Louisville. It's a high-tech assembly line of sorts. The trailers moved down the line by hovercraft. Yeah, just like in Back to the Future. Air pressure allows them to be pushed or pulled down the line.
And amazingly, I can even push it by myself because of the power of this thing. Pushing a semi by myself. There you go.
And that's not all that's state-of-the-art. From the floors to the paint job, it's the future of moving. On the move for 100 years now and ready to move for 100 more. Kelsey Starks, WHAS 11 News.
This moment was the light at the end of what's been a long, dark tunnel for the Indiana Hoosiers basketball program.
You can't ever lose belief that you're going to get back to it, and we never did. Now, did we have bad days? Did we have bad moments? Did we have bad game? Absolutely. That's all part of it. But you can never have self-doubt that you can't get the program where it needs to be to get back to that.
It's going to be a day I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. You know, it was something I wanted to do, you know, coming into Indiana. So, you know, I'm really proud of our team and, you know, happy for all the Indiana family.
I think it is a step. Hopefully it's not the last step, but, you know, with all this program has been through, I think it is very rewarding for all these guys to make it to the tournament.
IU suffered more than just an early exit in the Big Ten tournament. The Hoosiers marched to the madness with a wounded warrior. Senior guard Verdell Jones is out after tearing his ACL against Penn State.
Oh, I'm more of a coaching role now. I mean, I'm out, but we don't lose a step because you have a great player in Remy, coming on the bench, and I mean, my goal right now is just to really, just help Remy along. He has a lot of great talents. He does a lot of things that I can't do, and so I'm just to try to give him that senior leadership to help him get through the games.
And Remy is ready to prove he's more than able.
So I'm just trying to come in and do what I can do, be aggressive on offense, defensive end, and just trying to come in and do what I can do to help my team win. I mean, everybody has a role, and I'm just trying to come in and play mine.
With regular season wins over some of the best in college hoops, no team should underestimate the Hoosiers. But it's not stopping the pundits.
Unfortunately, I don't think the Indiana-Kentucky game is going to happen because I think that Wichita State is going to beat Indiana and go to the Sweet 16.
Seth is the gift that keeps on giving right now with his predictions. So we look forward to that, and I hope I never have a problem when anybody picks against us.
We're used to people doubting us. They've been doubting us all year long, so
I mean, yeah, you can say we using it as motivation, but we're just going to goddamn play our game and play at a high level.
Left to watch and wonder since 2008, the Hoosiers hope their return to the big dance is just the beginning of a return to glory.
It's a great feeling to be with your team, to see them get a dream come true. And you don't start following college basketball without knowing what this day means and without knowing what that selection show means. And every one of them, no matter what age they started watching, they remember it. And now they will always have this to remember.